Hello. I am going to go over this Project 2 Q&A and just some stuff about Project 2. I hope my voice isn't all crazy. I've been going back and forth a lot, so I'm doing a lot of videos. My voice might be out, but I wanted to show you guys some stuff I've added. And a couple of things first. There is an option 1. If you choose to do option 1, there's a sample. Here, the requirements for this assignment are slightly different but similar. So, let's take a look here at what this looks like. Let's wait for it to come up here. Oh, it's not coming up. It'll link to this external site here. And so this assignment is a little bit different. This is before I got really evil and made them do a screencast with it. So some of the requirements are slightly different, but it'll give you an idea of what an extended definition looks like. This is really long. He did a very long extended definition. So yours doesn't need to be this long. I actually redid this assignment so it didn't actually have to be this long, but it'll give you an idea of what this kind of looks like. So this is a sample. Now, keeping in mind that yours is going to look different. I'm going to close some things out here. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that you really go over these slide shares because they're important. They'll tell you exactly what it is that I am looking for. The memo report I'm asking you to do doesn't need to be crazy, longer than it needs to be. I'm telling you in the slide shares exactly what it is that I'm looking for. So you don't need to do any more or any less than what it is I'm looking for. So I'm going to go over the slide shares first. Well, let's do this. Let's go over the Project 2 prompt first. I think I already have it up somewhere here. Nope, I closed it. So let's pull it up here. Let's go over the prompt first. Learning outcomes. An understanding of how technical definitions and description answer different questions and how the answers to these questions solve problems for specific audiences. Why technical definitions and descriptions are embedded within other workplace documents. The importance of visuals to support the narrative in technical descriptions. Ways to extend a technical definition and how to choose a logical pattern for a technical description. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my microphone here, so I'm sorry if you just heard a horrible, horrible sound. An overview. Valuable writing skill you will often draw upon in workplace writing is the ability to write technical definitions and descriptions for a variety of contexts. And often you're going to have to write those for legal reasons or just to give people different understandings of what things are and how you mean what things are. And that's important. Very often I'll say, what one thing is, and I'll look at somebody and they'll have no idea what I'm talking about. So I'll have to explain what I mean. Like I'll say, I want you to write a memo, right? And you guys, it's very clear what I mean. I want you to write me a memo. And it's really clear in my head what that looks like. Does that mean that it's very clear to any of you what that looks like? No. So I need to come on and explain what that means. I'm giving you an extended definition of what that looks like, what that means to me. I just very rudely drank some water. So that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm giving all of you an extended technical definition of what that means. I'm breaking it down. So the slide shares. I'm going to go over these getting started. These are what you do. Read this prompt. Read this slide share number 1, slide share number 2, slide share number 3, the Q&A. Submission details, turn in everything by February 3rd. Now, look below. There is a broken down rubric here with the points broken down here. I'm going to break down the ratings a little bit more, but this is the point breakdown for the 150 points total. The breakdown of the criteria that you can be scored on, so you'll know exactly what I'm grading you on. So that is the rubric. You can find it right here in the prompt. So let's take a look at the slide shares really quickly. Maybe not really quickly, but quickly enough. Slide share number 1. Remember, you can always download a PDF of these slide shares if you want to. You don't have to, but you certainly can. Technical definitions and descriptions. This will just going through. This will tell you all about what is a technical definition and what is a technical description. And this will tell you, you know, all the things. What's the difference between a technical definition and a technical description? I'm not going to go through this entire thing. I'll let you, I'll let you do that. I want to go through the more specific things. But make sure you go through that. It's important. Deliverable number 1 is a memo report, and it's really important that you go through this carefully. Don't just swing through it like I did up here. Don't do what I did. This is really important because it tells you how to do the stuff, how to actually compose and go through deliverable number 1. So, deliverable number 1, it has a table of contents here for you, an introduction, what's deliverable number 1 all about, the audience for deliverable number 1, the planning steps, common organizing patterns, and then how to format and write that technical documentation. All these are really important because deliverable number 1 is how you're going to set up for deliverable number 2. So you need to go through everything in order to get to deliverable number 2, which is the slidecast. All right, deliverable number 1. Let's go through this. There are 2 types of technical documentation. User-oriented technical documentation. It's like a user guide for installing software, stuff like that. Project-oriented technical documentation, user manual. We're not doing that. It's external communication. We're doing project-oriented technical documentation. That's what we're doing here. I'm going to kind of skip. Deliverable number 1 is project-oriented. This is all practice kind of stuff. Your purpose will be to convey your planning decisions for the slidecast in a memo report. This slide doc is going to give you the guidelines about how to write the report, but first you need to make some decisions by going through 3 planning steps. You actually need to go through these planning steps in order to make a really good, in order to do well. So you can't skip these. It's really tempting to skip these, but you have to do these in order to do well. So you need to identify a context, the audience and the need, and decide if an extended technical definition of a term and what it means, or a technical description of a mechanism, a process, an animal, plant, or an insect, geographical feature, place, or phenomenon will be best able to meet that need. So you need to decide which one you're going to do. Plan how you will extend the definition or how you will develop the specifics and details needed for a technical description, and plan how many slides you will likely need and choose an organizing pattern for how you will arrange their order. So that's what you're doing. You need to plan basically your slidecast before you ever start making it. Step 1, identify a context. The context is the audience and the need. You need to choose a specific non-specialized, like a lay audience, people who don't know, they're not experts in the field. And the need will be to help the audience make a decision or gain a better understanding of something that affects or may affect them. The audience you choose may be a single person or a group of people who need to make a decision about something. And your slidecast will be to help them do this. So that's who your audience is. The memo is obviously going to be to me, but the audience for the slidecast are these people. That's who your audience for the slidecast is. I hope that makes sense. So you have 2 different audiences here. The audience for the memo is me. The audience for the slidecast are these people. So that's who your audience is. Don't choose students as your audience because the goal is not to teach. It's to translate technical information to an audience in order to meet a need this audience has to help them understand something better. To help you choose a lay audience and determine why they would need your slide cast, consider these questions. What audience need can be met by providing a wider focus, like more information beyond a sentence level definition, to help the audience gain a better understanding of something and or make a decision. If this is the need, choose option 1, a technical definition. So, option 1 will work best if you fit that bullet. Now, what audience need can be met by narrowing the focus to describe with specifics and details what something is like and or how it works to help an audience better understand something and or make a decision. If this is the need, choose option 2, a technical description. The next slide shows examples of audience need and statements. I'm going over this because I think it's going to help a lot of the Q&As that I've seen. So that's why I'm doing this first. An example of context for option number 1, extended technical definitions, trophic cascade. My audience will be people in southern Idaho who are concerned about wolf reintroduction. My slide cast will be a technical definition of trophic cascade that explains the role of predators in a food web to help my audience gain a better understanding of the pro-wolf reintroduction side of this debate. Non-governmental organization, or an NGO. My slide cast will be a technical definition of an NGO that explains the different types as well as the services and humanitarian aid they provide to help a legislator decide if he or she should continue to support the tax-exempt status of these organizations. Protective relay system. The context for my technical definition will be an audience of city council members who need to decide if purchasing this type of system would be appropriate for the backup generators in their city. My slide cast will go over different types of systems and the advantages and disadvantages of each. So these are all different specific definitions, but they're extended technical definitions that help people make a decision, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Technical descriptions. So, example 1, solar panels. My slide cast will be a technical description of first, second, and third generation solar panels to help homeowners, lay audience, they're not, experts in solar panels, decide which generation of panels they should purchase for their home. That's very helpful. Alzheimer's disease. I will create a slide cast technical description that describes what happens as a person progresses through the 7 stages of this disease to help loved ones prepare for what to expect if a family member has been diagnosed with early onset of Alzheimer's. This hits close to home for me right now. Rainbow trout. My audience will be anglers who need a technical description of different types of trout so they will know which fish they can keep and which ones need to be released. So that's the difference between this whole technical, extended technical definition and technical description. It can be subtle, but you need to be able to figure out which one is which. Make sure you avoid logical fallacies. I will let you read that all on your own. And step 3 for option 1, plan how you will develop the definition by choosing one or more of the following rhetorical moves. Classify X with more detail, contrast, compare, explain causes and effects, provide some of the history behind X, explain the extent and severity of X, use metaphor, use analogy, use an example of X. Step 3 for option 2, plan to begin the technical description with a sentence level definition and if needed a brief overview, and then develop the description by choosing one or more of the following moves, and it gives you these rhetorical moves. And step 4, plan the number of slides and how you will arrange their order. The slide cast is going to need to be about 3 minutes. You should plan to keep each slide to one topic. So think about how many slides you're going to need. A good approach is to think no more than 30 seconds per slide, so 6 slides. But you may need more slides than this and to spend less time on each slide. That's up to you. Divide it up however you're going to need. Choose one of the following common patterns for how to arrange the order of your slides. Be careful when choosing a pattern that it fits the option you choose. Common organizing pattern, sequential. Pattern organizes information according to a sequence that emphasizes phases or steps. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Really, that's common. Chronological organizes information according to a sequence that emphasizes time. Whoopsies. Parts to whole. This organizes information based on the components or parts of something and how each part or component works or functions, like putting puzzle pieces together. And that works really well. It just depends on how you do it. Compare and contrast. This pattern organizes information based on differences, where you contrast how things are different, and then how things are similar, just like this picture. This pattern, cause and effect, organizes information based on tracing a cause to an effect or tracing an effect back to its root causes. Order of importance organizes information by either starting with more important down to less important or the reverse, less important to more important. General to specific or specific to general. And then how to format and write the technical documentation. This is a memo report. Use the memo report. Use one of the rhetorical moves you learned in Project 1 to compose that introduction. My planning decisions for the deliverable are below. The same kind of thing. This memo explains my planning decisions for Project 2. Use all the stuff here. Use document design. I'd like headings, white space, visual hierarchy, left justification, single space text with one line of white space between paragraphs. No gaping lines, just one clean line. In the body of your memo, explain the following. All these things. Make sure you use your organizing pattern. That's very important. And then a standard conclusion. And that's it. And then for the slide share, I'll let you go over that, on your own. Wait, do I have that one here? The slide shares. Yeah, how to create the slide share. That one's pretty easy. Let's go over the Q&A. I'm going to go over the Q&A for both classes. Do you want us to add a bibliography or works cited at the end of the memo? No. I want you to add your works cited at the end of the slide share. So if you go to the slide shares, slide cast, it says in designing the slideshow, it doesn't ask for a slideshow in the memo, but it does tell you here to make sure that you have a bibliography in the slide cast. So make sure you put one there. Hi, Professor. Is this assignment a compare and contrast? What I mean, select a current option, i.e. rubber tires for an audience, and compare it to an unknown option, i.e. carbon fiber tires. Contrasting the benefits of the unknown option. Thanks for your help. No, not really. It's not a compare and contrast. It is taking a thing like rubber tires and it's perhaps explaining what rubber tires are and for a lay audience and fulfilling a specific need for that audience in some way. So hopefully by watching this endlessly long video, 19 minutes now, you have a better idea of what the assignment actually is now. And it's not a straight compare and contrast. You can certainly use compare and contrast as an organizing strategy for your slide cast, or perhaps for your extended definition, but it is not a straight compare and contrast. Well, hello. I want to clarify some of your doubts. I'm sure everyone has so many doubts. I understand that. Does the body of the memo only have the extended technical definition description and a simple conclusion at the end? Yes, so it's a one-page memo. Perhaps it might go over, depending, because if you look, there's a lot of stuff that could be going on in there. If we go back to this, what I'm asking you to do, when you extend, when you go and you extend, so we're going to go back to, this is SlideShare 2. So when it asks you to, like a technical description, you develop the description by choosing one or more of the following moves. You describe in detail the specific features of X. You extend it out even more, and so sometimes it goes over one page when you extend it out even more, and that depends on audience need, that context. So if the audience needs a longer definition to fulfill that need in that context, that is fine. You can definitely go over a page. You need to make it as long as it needs to be so that the audience need and purpose is fulfilled. That's absolutely fine. But it might just be one page. That's fine too. Do the slides have all the information that we want to add about the topic with the bibliography at the end? Yes. The slides I happen to have the slide right here. The slides have, there's definitely, I'm sorry I'm doing this. Sometimes I whip through slides really fast and it makes me feel like I'm going to throw up. Introduction, body, conclusion, for sure. There's at least 6 slides, introduction, body, conclusion. And there doesn't need to be any more than that. There might be. That's fine. If I choose a rhetorical move, compare X to something similar from my technical definition description, how many specific details should I write? I understand the definition or description should be a short paragraph, right? At first, because you're extending out beyond a sentence level to that extended paragraph, it's going to be a short paragraph. But then when you start comparing and contrasting, it's going to get even longer. So it's going to start as a short paragraph, but then you're going to extend it out even a little bit more or even a lot more. It might get very long. So, for example, when we look at this long paper, this is his definition. He starts out with what an air entrainer is. This is what it is. And then he goes on and on and on and on and on. It's very, it's pretty long. And so it might be long. How simple or difficult can be the topic that we pick? Oh, it can be very simple or very difficult. It's totally up to you. That's, whatever you need. All right, so I have this class. Let's go into my other class. Hold on a minute, and let's get those questions answered. Dun, 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 dun. Ooh. So that we can make sure I get all the Q&As done here. Because I want to make sure that everyone's questions are answered. No messages. Oh, I wanted to clarify one last thing. Is a URL acceptable for proof of finished work? Or do we need to download and send it to you too? I'm assuming that you mean a URL for the slidecast. I hope that's what you mean. A URL for the slidecast is actually what I want. I don't want anything but a URL. I want a PDF or a Word doc for your memo, and I want a URL for the SlideShare. For both extended technical definitions and technical descriptions, you want us to state the rhetorical moves you will use to develop specifics and details beyond sentence level. I went over the first 2 slides quite a few times, but I can't seem to find what that really means. Okay, so what I mean by that is I actually just went over that in what I just said. Gosh, I'm sorry, words are escaping me. What I mean by that is by rhetorical moves, I'm going to bring this over here again. It's in this SlideShare 2, how to write the technical documentation. And what I mean by that is it's step 3. How will you extend the definition? So it's 17 and 18, and the rhetorical moves are there. And that's what I mean. Oh, criminy. I thought for a minute it would let me go there. It's not going to let me. So plan how you will develop the definition by choosing one or more of the following rhetorical moves. Classify X with more detail, contrast X with something different, compare X to something similar. So, like if you're doing elephants, right, which you're not going to do, but compare an elephant to something similar, explain the causes and effects of X. That's what I mean by that. That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked that. And the same for technical descriptions. So what I'm asking is on 17 and 18 of SlideShare 2. I hope that clears that up. Okay. I noticed the SlideShare mentioned a memo. Will we also need to do a memo with the technical documentation? The memo is the technical documentation. One of the SlideShares mentioned audience as a section. Does this mean the audience is people in a program of study, or can it be anybody related to our topic? Nope, I just went over the audience, and I hope that clears it up. But if it doesn't, you let me know. Hello, Ari. If the technical definition and technical are rarely independent pieces of communication, how should we choosing just one of them to communicate the details? Thank you. Oh, hey, how are you? Well, they're independent pieces of communication. They're rarely independent, meaning they don't just kind of like hang out all by themselves in the middle of nowhere. Usually they're embedded in a piece of, in some kind of user manual or in technical documentation somewhere. They're not just like something you're going to, write in a love letter, or maybe you are, I don't know. They're not just going to hang out by themselves. They are embedded elsewhere. So, and they exist for specific purposes. Honestly, usually they exist to cover someone legally or fulfill a specific need for specific users. So they don't just exist by themselves. They are embedded elsewhere. That's what that means, but they're not independent. They exist elsewhere. So they don't usually exist side by side. You usually, how should we be choosing just one of them to communicate the details? You just choose the one I just went over earlier, and if you want to do this one thing, choose this one. If you want to choose this other thing, choose this one. And it's in SlideShare 2. So go back a little bit in this long half-hour video, and hopefully that will help. But again, if you have questions, just let me know. All right, I think that's it. I'm going to shut this down. I hope this answers all your questions. And but if you have any more questions, please just let me know. All right, bye-bye.